Hey yogi friends, one of my absolute favorite things to do is to practice outside. So I wanted to just set us up out here today so that you could enjoy a little bit of that same experience. If you want to grab your mat and haul it outside to do this practice along with me, that would be fantastic. But if you need to be inside, you can just soak up some of the outdoors that I have here to share with you today on my deck. Wanted to welcome you, first of all. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. I am hoping that this practice, of course, brings you a lot of physical pleasure and also just centers your mind, centers your spirit. So let's just get started and move right in. And first thing we want to do, of course, is close the eyes. Be in your comfortable seat, your Sukhasana, and you may hear some of the background noise from my location. I happen to be in a flight path to the Atlanta airport. So if you hear some of that, you can just let that go. As you hear it, acknowledge it, and then let it go on. Just as you would any noises in your own house while you're practicing. Just let those happen around you and focus on your practice. If you haven't already, close the eyes. Notice the spine. We want to have an erect spine from crown to tail. Imagine a little thread just lifting your crown a little higher if you need to. Notice the spaces, the parts of the body that are resting on the mat, that are grounded into the surface beneath you. Where in the ankles, the legs, the feet, and the bum, what parts of the body are firmly grounded there right now? And just notice those spaces. Notice where your hands are resting on your legs. Notice the shape of the fingers and thumb. Notice your breathing. Are you coming in with a certain breathing pattern? Maybe notice the pace of the breath, the depth of the breath. Let's take a big full inhale, starting in the lower abdomen, really filling up the belly, coming up through the lungs, raising the collarbone just slightly on the final bit of inhale, lowering that collarbone as we press the exhale fully out by drawing the navel in toward the spine, really pressing the exhale completely out. And that allows us to start fresh with a brand new big full belly breath, filling up from the bottom of the abdomen, coming up through the midsection all the way up to that collarbone, and then reversing that action with the exhale, pressing navel towards spine to fully exhale. Let's do one more big full belly breath. Inhaling up and exhaling, letting everything go with that exhale. Whatever you're coming here to the mat with, whatever feelings, whatever activities that await you when you complete your practice, let all those things go for now, and let's focus on our breath and our presence in this very moment. From here, let's take one big inhale, and on the exhale, we'll chant Om together to open. Notice how that vibration of the chant moves from the lower body, from that root chakra area up through the midsection, up through the throat and into the head. Let's do that once more just to pay close attention to that movement of energy from crown to head, or from tail to crown, excuse me. Big full inhale. And exhale with Om. And from this place of stillness, we want to gently open the eyes. Maybe let them flutter open. And we're going to move into our warm-ups here today. If you don't have a strap or a couple of blocks handy, you might want to grab those, or a fat, thick book works in place of a block. The belt from a robe, or even a long hand towel, bath towel, works in place of a strap if you don't have one of those. So I'll give you a second to grab those things. For those of us who are ready, we're going to go ahead and just begin our warm-ups. And if you need to step away and grab your props, do that and come back to us, and we'll warm up together. Let's start by lifting the arms up above the shoulders, lengthening through the fingertips, making sure there's space between the shoulders and the ears, and just holding here for a minute, lifting up through the crown. And then we'll lower the arms back down as if we're pressing through some thick liquid like honey or molasses. And then we do the same and press back up again. Press, press, press. And then we press back down, really activating through the fingers and the arms, lifting up, lifting through the fingertips, pressing down toward the mat. Once more, lifting up through the fingertips, pressing down toward the mat. And let's lift up again. And from this lift, we're actually going to make our first twist. So twist to one side, bringing the hand in front to rest on the knee or the thigh. The other hand is behind the bum. Lifting through the crown on an inhale, and on an exhale, looking over that back shoulder. Lifting the hands so we know that the midsection is doing the work here. And holding here for a breath. And then we'll raise the hands back up again and twist to the other side. Lengthening up through the crown on the inhale. Looking over that back shoulder on the exhale. And again, just a reminder, lift the hands to make sure we're not pressing with the hands, but we're using the torso muscles to hold in this twist position. And then we'll raise the arms back up overhead and bring the hands down to the sides. From here, we're going to lengthen out through the fingertips and then turn the palms to face the sky, bringing the hands toward the shoulders so the fingertips will touch the shoulders. On an inhale, extend them out to the side. On an exhale, bring fingertips to shoulders. Inhale out, exhale in. Inhale out, exhale in. And again, think of being really active in the arms here, really pressing, using the strength. And on that contraction, really pulling the hands in with some effort. And then lowering the hands down. Let's use our fingertips to put in front of our crossed legs. Lengthen up through the crown. Make sure the sits bones stay grounded. And then we're just going to bend forward from the hips and look into this little imaginary pond or imaginary puddle that's here. Lengthen up on the inhale, and you might be able to even bend forward slightly more on the exhale, using the hands in whatever position here to give you a little bit of support. Inhaling on, or lengthening on the inhale through the crown. And if it's within your practice to go slightly forward again on the exhale, This can be intense in the hips, so imagine drawing your inhale toward that intense place. And on the exhale, drawing the tension away from that tense spot. And keep the breaths full and deep. One more full breath cycle here. And then we'll use the fingertips to press ourselves back up to seated. Switch the legs out so that we have the opposite leg either in front or on top, however you have your legs crossed. Lengthening up through the spine again, and then bending slightly forward from the hips. Now notice how different it feels on one side of the body from the other to do this move. It's often really a different sensation. So listen to your body, make sure if there's discomfort that you're paying close attention there. We don't want any discomfort to cross the line over into pain. You know how I feel about that. Pain is the body's message to back up, make a change, make an adjustment that works for your body that day. And if that adjustment means we sit out this stretch altogether, then that's what you do. Let's move forward just slightly with the fingertips. Inhaling, lengthen through the crown, maybe exhaling. Not maybe exhaling, definitely exhaling, but maybe lengthening forward just a bit. Think of reaching out the top of the head, out and forward. And again, keeping those sits bones nicely grounded. Holding here for one more breath cycle. And then we'll use the fingertips to walk ourselves back up. Let's bring the fingertips to rest on the mat on either side. Lift them up about 12 inches. And we're going to do a little bit of a twist here. And we'll just let the hands and arms follow the torso as we twist. And from here, we'll raise the arms up to about shoulder height. Notice how that changes the sensation in the back, the chest, the shoulders. And then from here, we're going to even move up a little further, maybe bringing the hands to face one another, the palms of the hands to face one another. And notice how this brings that twist into a completely different section of the back. And then we'll slowly begin to lower the arms back down. Slowly bringing them down. This is a great way to help align the spine and really begin to warm up those muscles around the spinal column. From here, we're going to come into our tabletop position. Fingers spread nice and wide, palms firmly planted, gripping into the fingertips here, knees directly below the hips, feet directly behind the knees, and a nice straight line from crown to tail, drawing your navel up slightly, helps to keep that straight line between crown and tail. And from here, we're going to drop the belly down, lift the head and the tailbone toward the sky, holding here for one breath, noticing where you feel a stretch in the front of the body. And then we'll curve the spine up toward the sky, lifting the navel up toward the spine, really pressing through the tops of the feet, the knees, the palms of the hands. And then from here, we'll drop the belly once again into our cow pose. And we'll lift the spine back up into our cat. Drop the belly into cow. And lift the spine up into cat. From here, we're going to actually bring the hips back to rest on the heels into a child's pose with the arms extended out in front. Bit of extended child's pose here. And we're going to move the weight of the body forward so that we're on the forearms. And then we'll press into the palms and come up into a cow. Curve the back into a cat, and then bring the hips, back to the heels. So this is just a fluid movement between our cow and our cat. So hips are on heels. We move the weight of the body forward, so we're on the forearms. We press into the hands, into our cow, and then we curve the back up into our cat and lower hips back down to heels. So we're just doing a fluid movement between those two poses and incorporating a little bit of arm work at the same time. A little arm strengthening here. Move at whatever pace is most comfortable for you. And when the heels are at the hips and heels are touching or close to touching, we're actually going to press toward one side as we come forward onto the hands and knees. And then we'll press the hips out to the opposite side as we come back toward the heels again. So we're just moving the hips in circles now. Circling the hips around, they'll cross over the heels, press out to one side. You'll be in a tabletop. The hips press out to the opposite side and come back to the heels. And again, circle in whatever pace is most comfortable for you. No rules here about our pacing. We just want to do what works best for your body today, so listen in. Let's do one more first circle here. And when the bum is on the heels or close to the heels this time, we're going to reverse our circle. So we're just circling hips, same movement, opposite direction here. And notice if it feels different working in this direction than it did in the other. Anytime you might have wrists that start to get fussy, you can make fists with the hands and put the flat part of the fist, the front of the fingers between the upper knuckle and the mid knuckle. You can put that part of the fist on the ground, and that will allow for some rest in the wrists. Let's do one more circle here, and when our heels and hips meet once again, let's stay here in our extended child's pose for just a moment. You might want to rock the forehead back and forth from side to side. It can feel nice. Give a little release there in that third eye area, the sinuses. And from here, let's come back up to our tabletop. Maybe move the palms one palm's length forward, curl the toes under behind you, and we're going to come up into our down dog. So lift the hips up, pedaling the feet. That means bending one knee and pressing the opposite heel toward the mat. And you just keep pedaling here to really stretch out the calf and the Achilles. The bottom of the foot gets a nice stretch here at the same time. Notice alignment from crown to tail. We want a straight line. We want to be gripping into those fingertips. And we want ears and biceps to be beside one another. And the shoulder blades, we want those to be down the back. So we're creating space between the ears and the shoulders. And once you've pedaled out a little bit, you can come into a still position, pressing those heels toward the mat and giving yourself as much bend in the knees as you need on this day. We come to the mat each day, our body is in a little bit different shape, so listen to what your body needs today. Maybe even come up onto the toes for a moment and then press the heels back down again. Just giving a different stretch in the foot there. And from here, let's walk our feet forward to meet our hands in a forward fold. Just letting the head hang here, shaking it a little bit, no, a little bit, yes. It can help to release some tension there in the neck. And if you'd like, bring one palm to hold the opposite elbow and the other palm to hold the other elbow. And you can just do a little sway from side to side here, giving a little more stretch in the back of the leg. And make sure that you're, again, giving yourself as much bend in the knees as you need. The hamstrings can sometimes be extra tight, so honor where you are today. Releasing the hands, let's roll up into our mountain pose with the shoulders back and down. chin is parallel to the floor. Maybe readjust shirt, pants, clothing, hair, anything that needs a little readjustment there, and then come into a still mountain, engaging the thighs so that the knees are lifting slightly. Tailbone is pointing toward the floor. Crown is reaching up toward the sky. From here, let's reach up over the shoulders, fingertips reaching up, space between the shoulders and ears, and we're going to dive forward into our forward fold once again. Holding here for just a moment in our forward fold. And then we're going to straighten one leg, placing the opposite hand of that leg right in front of the face on the floor. So placing that palm down, and you have the opposite leg straight. So the same hand is the leg that is straight, same side of the body. Place that palm on the inside of the arm you have planted, the palm you have planted into the floor. And just draw that arm up across, draw that palm up across the inside of the arm, across the chest, and then lengthen that arm out, up above your shoulder. So you have the same leg straight as you have the arm straight up above you. And you're probably feeling this in the outside of the leg that is straight. Lengthening again through the fingertips, space between that shoulder and ear, and lengthening out through the crown. Making sure that the toes aren't gripping. You can ensure that by just lifting the toes slightly off the mat. One more breath here. And then we're going to bring that top hand, place it right where the other hand was, planted on the ground. And so now you have the bent leg as the same side of the body as the hand that is now planted on the floor or the ground. And your opposite leg is straight. Same hand, same side of the body as the straight leg. We'll bring that palm inside the arm that's planted on the ground, or the hand that's planted on the ground. Inside that arm, draw it across the arm, across the chest, lengthen up through the fingertips. Really lengthen. Now notice how this leg may feel different than the other one in this position. Remembering to breathe, put a little smile on the face here. Lengthening through the crown, creating space between shoulders and ears. And holding here for one more breath. And then we'll bring that hand down to meet the other into our forward fold once again. Let's rise up into our mountain. One breath in our mountain here. Full inhale. Exhale. On the next inhale, raise the arms up above the shoulders. Once again, lengthening through fingertips. Diving back down into our forward folds. We're going to take the right toes back. Lower the right knee. Place the right palm firmly on the mat, gripping into those fingertips, and notice where the alignment is between the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist on that right arm. And then take a look at the left ankle and left knee. You want those to be straight up and down from one another. So knee in alignment with ankle. And let's take that left hand and draw it across the outside of the left calf, and then lengthen it up toward the sky, pressing into the right palm. Holding here for a moment, remembering to breathe. Lengthening out through the crown. Imagine pulling the knee on the left leg just slightly in toward the center of the mat. It could also be imagine that you're pulling it closer to the right shoulder in the direction of the right arm. Let's bring the palm down. So now the palms are framing the foot. And then from here, we're going to take both palms and place them on the left knee and rise up with the torso. We can stay right here. Noticing again, left ankle and knee are one right above the other. If you want to add a little intensity, you can bring the arms up above the shoulders here, lengthening through the fingertips, creating space between the shoulders and ears, and pressing the hips just slightly forward. Noticing the sensation in the front of the right hip flexor and the quad. Let's bring the hands back down to frame that foot. Come up onto the back toes, and then we're going to bring the left foot back to meet the right in our plank pose. You can certainly come into a half plank here, bringing the knees to the floor. If you want to stay in your plank and hold here just a moment, just building some strength, gripping into those fingertips to take pressure out of the wrists, and imagine a straight line from crown to tail to heels. And if your knees aren't already down, let's bring the knees down, and we're going to bend at the elbows, making a 90-degree angle between the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist, and then slowly lowering down. You just did a chaturanga there. And then we're going to press up into our cobra. This might be a little cobra where just the chest comes off the ground. It can be a bigger cobra. Listen to your body today and determine what it needs. One thing you need to remember is to keep the elbows close to the body, close to the torso and the ribs. Remembering to breathe here and then lowering back down. Pressing up either into a tabletop or a plank. Back up into our down dog. Let's pedal the feet there a little bit. Giving a little extra movement to the feet, a little extra stretch to the calves and the Achilles. Notice if it feels a little different in this down dog than it did in the very first one that we did today. And then come into stillness for a moment. Let's lift the right leg up so that there is a direct diagonal line from the hip and the right leg to the heel. And then bend the knee of that right leg and open up the hip to the side so the torso tips slightly toward the right. And just holding here for a moment, creating some space in that hip. Then we'll come back to center with that leg, just lifting. And then we'll come back to our downward facing dog. Pedal the feet once more. I'm going to take that right leg, lift it again, and bring the right knee as close as you can to the chest as you come forward on the hands, and then place the right foot between the palms. If you need to use the hands and arms to bring that foot forward, you can do so. Lengthening through the crown here. This is a great place to bring some blocks in. You can really lengthen up even more when you have the earth coming up toward you. Holding here for a moment. Lengthening through crown, shoulders away from ears. And then let's put a little bend in that back knee and come forward with that left foot. Here we are again in our forward fold. Just enjoying the gravity pulling the head toward the earth here. Well, maybe you're enjoying it. It can feel nice. And then from here, we're going to slowly rise up, lengthening the arms up above shoulders and lifting up with maybe a little back bend here. Let's even open the arms into cactus arms. And just open up the chest, lifting the chin up to open the throat. Bringing hands back up above shoulders and then lowering them back down into a prayer position. Let's just hold here just a moment, paying attention to the breath, paying attention to the heartbeat, noticing the energy within the body, and noticing our breath. And maybe noticing the sounds around us, some of the sounds around me. Let's raise the arms back up above shoulders. We're going to dive forward into that forward fold once again. This time we'll take the left toes back. We're going to lower that left knee and the top of that left foot. And then from here, we want to plant that left palm on the ground. Mine is probably 6 inches from my right foot, and I need to pay attention to my elbow, shoulder, wrist alignment. We want those all to be in a straight line. Palm, fingertips wide open, pressing into the fingertips there. Let's take that right palm and just bring it across the outside of the right calf and then lengthen it up to the sky and hold here for a moment in this twist. Noticing the sensations. If there's any place where this is a little much, you can always bring that hand back down if that twist is a little much and just hold here in the low lunge. If you happen to be in this position where the arm is lengthened up above the shoulder, let's bring the hand back down to frame that back foot. And then from here, we're going to bring both palms to rest on top of the right knee. Lengthen up through the crown, shoulders away from the ears, and just hold here for a moment. And you may notice that the hip flexor in one leg is really feeling this more than the other. If you'd like to add a little intensity, bring the arms to lengthen up above the shoulders, maybe pressing the hips just slightly forward, and maybe even lifting the chest just slightly. Imagine bringing the right hip slightly back as the left hip comes slightly forward. Always an option to leave the hands on the knee for extra support. Let's come down from here to frame the foot. And then from here, we're going to rise up onto the back toes. And again, we can bring the blocks just underneath us for some extension. A little added. And you can always leave this back knee down too for this extension. Always the option to leave the knee down. From here, let's come up onto those back toes again, if you're not already, and bring that right foot back to meet the left in our plank position here, holding in this plank or bringing the knees into a half plank. And this time you can either do the chaturanga or you can just lower down to the belly. Let's press up into our cobra, keeping the elbows close to the body, lifting through the crown wherever you are, low or high. And then from here, we're going to press up into either a plank or a tabletop and come into our down dog, pedaling the feet here a bit more. Lifting that left leg up so that there is a straight diagonal line between the left hip and the left heel. And make sure that the shoulder blades are down the back. Let's bend that left knee and open up the left hip to the side. Torso just move slightly toward the side, opening up the belly to the side. Remembering to breathe fully and deeply here. And then let's come back to center, lengthening that leg again in that diagonal from heel to hip. And then we're going to bring that left knee forward toward the chest, lifting up toward the chest as much as possible as we come onto the hands, and then bringing that left foot forward. And then from here, we'll lower that right knee. And again, we can put the blocks here underneath the hands to give us some more length. You can also come up onto that the back toes, and hold here in this stretch and breathe. Notice the sensations in the body. Notice the alignment of knee to ankle. Put a little smile on the face if it starts to get challenging. Let's lower that right knee. We'll frame the left foot. Come up onto the back toes, and that little bend in the back leg will help bring that right foot forward into our forward fold. Let's rise back up, lifting arms above shoulders. Lengthen through the fingertips. Little back bend, opening up into those cactus arms again. Lifting fingers up. And then coming into our prayer position again. Let's take a moment In prayer to close the eyes, notice the breath, the heartbeat, the energy within the body. From here, let's come to the long edge of our mat. Spread the feet about 3.5 feet apart. And we're going to lift the arms up into a star pose, first of all, just really feeling the energy that we've cultivated throughout the body. Let's bring the hands to the hips. We're going to bend from the hips and reach the crown forward. And we're going to stop halfway and just look into that imaginary pond again, pressing the sits bones back. Notice where the weight of the legs is. We want it to be in the outer edge of the feet. Sometimes if we slightly turn the toes in, that can help make sure that all of that weight is concentrated in the back of the legs. The outside of the feet. The outside of the legs and outside of the feet. Then we can continue down with the head reaching toward the floor, toward the mat. You can bring a block in here if you want to rest your forehead on the block. You can do that. Or if you want to have the blocks handy to rest the hands on, that's another option too. And just listen to your body and what it needs today. We don't want to overdo it. Take this stretch to where it works best for you. Regardless of whether hands are on the blocks or head is on the blocks, just hold here for one more breath cycle, really relaxing into this wide-legged forward fold. Again, noticing where the weight is concentrated in the outside of the feet. Maybe noticing the blood flow to the head, which is one of the big benefits of these inversions. Mental clarity and just added oxygen to the brain. It's all good. If the forehead is on the block, I would remove the forehead from the block, and you could place the hand on the block. If your hands are on the floor or already on a block, take the left hand and place it right below the face. We're going to do another twist, similar twist, but this time with wide legs. Bring the right hand inside the left forearm and then draw it up the forearm, the upper arm, across the chest, and lengthen out through that hand. Now that may mean your hand is out to the side. It may mean your hand is up above your shoulder behind. You make the decision where it works for your body today and listen to what your body needs. Let's bring that top hand wherever it is, back down. Place it in front of the face. Draw the left hand up across the inside of the left arm, across the chest, and lengthen it out through the fingertips, whether that's to the side or up toward the sky. You decide. Pay attention to what your body needs today. One more full breath cycle here. And then we'll lower both hands down. Bring the hands to the waist. Once again, come up to the middle first with a little bend in the knee. That really helps to get us back up to our tall position. Let's turn the toes of one foot out 90 degrees from the other foot and take a look down at your heel and the arch of your foot. You want a straight line between heel and arch. Raise arms up to shoulder height. And from here, we're going to bend that front leg right over the knee. If you need to rearrange feet to provide more or less space, now's a good time to do that. Make sure that you can lift those front toes and even the back toes slightly to ensure there's no gripping in the toes, because that creates cramps. Bad news. So we don't want any cramps. So lift those front toes, holding here in our warrior two. Feel the strength in the arms, the legs, the torso. Tailbone is pointing toward the floor, and crown is up toward the sky, lengthening. The crown helps to create space between the shoulders and the ears. Looking out over that front hand. This can get intense too, so make sure to bring the breath. And from here, we're going to bend that front arm and place the forearm right above the knee and lengthen the opposite arm up above the shoulder, keeping this top hip as open as we can. Really noticing the opening in the side body here. Lengthen again through the crown. Remembering to breathe as we hold here. Let's come back to our warrior two. Straighten the front leg and come into a reverse warrior where we lift that front arm up above the shoulder, placing the back palm on the leg. Holding here for a moment to bring some relief to that front leg, and then lowering the arms to that warrior two position and then all the way back down. Let's do this same move on the opposite side. Turn the opposite foot out 90 degrees, bringing the arms up to shoulder height, lengthening through those fingertips. Notice where the tailbone is pointing toward the floor, and lengthen through the crown as we bend that front knee. Again, now's the time if you need to adjust space between the feet. Give yourself appropriate spacing there, whether you need to increase or decrease. Holding here in this warrior two. Again, lifting those front toes so you know you aren't doing any gripping. Don't want to cause any cramping here. If at any point you need to take a little break and straighten the front foot and lower the arms, do so, and then you can just come back in. Sometimes you just need to give it a little breather, and then you can come right back into the pose. Imagining this front knee is tracking toward those middle toes, but it's staying above that front ankle. And I have to check this repeatedly myself, so it's always one of those to check in with. Let's take the front arm, bend it, and rest the forearm right above the kneecap of the front leg and lengthen the back arm up above the shoulder. And then opening that top hip, keeping it open. We don't want it to roll forward. We really want to create space in that side body and opening of that hip. Lengthening through the crown here. Remembering to breathe. One side you might find one leg is stronger than the other. Imagine that. I can certainly feel the strength on one side of my body more so than the other. Let's rise back up to warrior two and then straighten that front leg. Lengthen front arm up above shoulder, bringing the back palm to rest on the leg. And breathing. And then from here, we'll bring the arms back to that warrior two position and just relax the arms down. Let's walk the feet closer together here. And from here, let's lift the arms up above the head, bringing the hands into a steeple grip. And we're going to press the hips out to one side, leaning over toward the opposite side, and just holding here for a moment. Tailbone pointing toward the ground. And then we'll rise back up to the middle, pressing hips out to the opposite side. Again, tailbone pointing toward the ground. And lengthening the upper body toward the opposite side from the hips. And holding here for a moment. And then coming back up and lowering the arms back down. Let's do some balancing work here. So we're going to come into a tree pose, and I'll offer some variations for you. If balance is a challenge right now, for whatever reason, you may want to simply leave the big toe on the ground, but we'll offer some other options as well. So first, bring the hands to the hips, really pressing into the standing leg. You decide which leg is going to be your standing leg for this position. Really pressing into that heel and feeling activation all the way from the hip through the thigh down through the heel of that foot. Then lift the opposite toe off the ground, or just lift the foot up onto the toe first. Let's do that first. Notice how your balance is here. Really pressing into that leg helps. Drawing the navel in also helps with the balance. And find a stationary point out in front of you that's not going to be moving at all while you're in this position, and fix your gaze on that point. We call that the drishti. that is going to help you also stay very balanced. So this leg might already be feeling it, mine is. If you want to come further, you can bring the sole of that foot up to the calf muscle, or you can bring it all the way up inside the thigh of the standing leg. And lengthening through the crown, keeping the gaze on your drishti, your stationary point. Now that you're in tree, in whatever variation you can decide, do you want to have tree branches for your arms? Do you want to bring them into prayer above the head? Bring them into prayer at the chest? If you really want to challenge your balance today, you can wave your tree branches a little bit, and that just requires a little bit more balance. But wherever you decide to bring your arms today, hold there for 2 more full breath cycles. If you need to come out of this position or you happen to lose the balance, that's okay. Just come back into it. That's just like life. Things happen, we get off balance, and we have to come back to that space of equilibrium. So it's a wonderful metaphor for our daily life, to fall out of a pose and then need to come back in and regain our position. From here, let's lower gently that foot wherever it is and give the legs a shake, because golly, that was some work there. Now we're going to plant that opposite foot, really activating the leg from the hip through the thigh, the knee, all the way down toward the heel. Planting that leg strongly, raising up onto the opposite big toe, bringing the hands to the hips. Find your drishti out in front, your stationary point. Draw navel to spine. Crown is lengthened up, tailbone is pointing toward the ground. And decide where you'd like to place your foot. If you want to move it from that big toe on the ground, you can. Placing it wherever works best for you today. And you may find that one side of the body is better able to balance than the other. Not unusual for us to find that one side is a little easier than the other. One's a little more challenging than the other. Just like every day, we take it a day at a time. One may be more challenging and one simpler. Holding here for 2 more full breath cycles. And again, if you need to come out, you can just join us back in when you're ready. And let's gently release that foot down and give the legs a shake again. Let some stuff go. All right, from here, we're going to come into our chair pose. So first things first, we want to get nice and grounded again in the feet, lifting the toes. We don't want any toe gripping. And then press the bum back first, and then bend the knees. So we want to try to keep the knees above the heels as much as possible. Maybe bringing the hands to prayer position here. Holding in our chair, imagine lengthening through the crown, straight line from crown to tail, and really using the weight in the heels to hold us in position. Now, if you find that, whoa, this is intense and you need to just come up and stand for a moment, give the thighs a little bit of a break, you can do so, and then just come back in to your chair. If you want to add some intensity, you can lengthen the arms out above the shoulders. You can also press up slightly an inch or 2 and then lower back down slightly an inch or 2. So you can add in if you'd like to intensify things. Let's lower all the way down to seated. And let's lengthen the legs directly out in front into a nice Dandasana here. Lengthening up through the fingertips. I'm going to grab my strap because I want to offer an option here to use that. Again, lengthening up through fingertips, through crown, bending from the hips toward the toes. So imagine the nose coming toward the toes. That's the idea we want to have here. And we want as much straight line from crown to tail as possible. Now, you might want to use the strap here to wrap around the ball of the feet and the base of the pinky toe. and just hold here. And this can allow you sometimes to lengthen up through the crown a little bit more than just the simple bend forward. It anchors you a little bit more. If you would like to do so, do that. And then you may find too that if you have the strap and you hold this position for a moment, you may even find that if you lengthen on the inhale, you might be able to come slightly forward. Give as much bend in the knees here as what is needed. If you need to roll up a towel beneath the knees here to give extra support, do so. Remembering to breathe and listen to your body. If you're able to reach the toes and you choose to want to add a little intensity to the stretch in the back of the legs, especially in the calves, you can gently tug those toes toward the body. Holding here for one more breath cycle. And you use your fingertips to walk you back up to seated. I'd like to do a quad stretch here that I neglected to include in our asanas earlier, but because I think it's a wonderful quad stretch, I'm going to include it here. So bring one foot forward between the palms, and then we're going to place the opposite hand about 6 inches away from that planted foot in front. Again, alignment over knee and ankle. And from here, this is something you may also want to use your strap for. We're going to lift the back heel up toward the bottom, and you may feel some stretch in the quad here. Another option also in this place is to put a block under that front palm. Now you already might be feeling enough of a stretch in the quad here. If you are able, if it's in your practice, to reach this foot back here and just gently tug it toward the body, toward the bum as you are lengthening through the crown, this will intensify that stretch. If you can't quite reach, you have the option of wrapping your strap around the top of the foot and pulling the heel toward the bum. And another option here that helps me at least is to move the weight in the front foot toward the outer edge. So you almost open the knee slightly and lean that weight into the outer edge of the front foot. And again, this can be an intense move. So another option here is holding with the strap. So regardless of how you have this, you can lean that front foot onto the outer edge of the foot. That can help also. And then we'll just bring that leg back down and switch out legs. Again, bending that back leg so that the foot can come toward the bum, and either reaching back with the fingers. This side might be really different. And then rolling slightly onto the outer edge of that front foot, lifting through the crown, holding here for a moment, and noticing that stretch in the front of the hip flexor and quad, and then releasing gently, and then placing your props over to the side, coming back into our Dandasana. And from here, we're going to just sit up tall first, lengthen arms out in front of the body in our steeple grip again, and use the abs to slowly, slowly, slowly roll down into a full body stretch, lengthening arms up above the shoulders, reaching through the fingertips, pressing through the heels, and then bringing arms to rest on either side of the body, bringing soles of the feet to the mat, bending the knees so that they point toward the sky. The feet are probably about 12 inches from the bum, approximately. We're going to just let the knees fall over to one side really gently and hold there for a moment, lengthening the arms out on either side of the shoulders and turning the head to face the opposite direction of the knees. Holding here for a moment and just relaxing into this position. And then coming back to the center and dropping the knees over to the opposite side, turning the face over toward the opposite hand. And again, just relaxing into this position. Let's come back to center and just rock the knees in that same position from side to side. A couple of times, you'll notice this kind of gives a nice little massage to the low back. A little bit of weight on the sacrum, maybe feeling it in the hips, the muscles of the hips as well. I think I did a third. It just feels good, so I kept going. And then from here, we're going to lengthen the legs out directly in front of us, bringing the arms to rest at the sides into our Shavasana. And taking this moment, these few moments, to just soak up the benefits of your practice, closing the eyes if they aren't already. I'm going to do a quick scan of the body with you to help bring all those muscles into full relaxation. Let's start in the toes, moving up through the feet and the ankles, relaxing everything in the feet and ankles, letting any tension go. Coming up through the shins and calves, the knees, the thighs, the hips, letting go of any effort or tension in the entire leg on both sides. Coming into the pelvic region, the lower abdomen and low back, the mid-back and stomach, the upper back and chest, the shoulders, letting go of any tension or any efforts in the torso. Bringing attention to the fingers, the thumbs, the palms and back of the hands, letting go of any efforts there, wrists and forearms, elbows, upper arms and shoulders. Releasing both arms completely. Coming into the neck and throat, the ears, the scalp, and the face, the jawbone. Let the jaw slightly open to release. Cheeks, muscles around the nose and mouth, the chin, all the tiny muscles around the eyes and eye sockets, the temples, the forehead, and the little space between the eyebrows, relaxing everything in the face and the head and the neck. I'll let you know when it's time to come back to full awareness. Just take this time now to be and to breathe. time to bring a little movement back into the fingertips and the toes. Maybe moving the ankles side to side, rocking on the heels back from side to side. Maybe stretching the arms up above shoulders, reaching through fingertips. Maybe bring a little rock in the hips from side to side. And then rolling over onto your side, pillowing the head with one arm, keeping the eyes closed here. One full breath cycle on your side. And then pressing up with the hands into your Sukhasana, your comfortable cross-legged position. Again, keeping the eyes closed as long as you can. And as you come into your Sukhasana here, notice how the body feels different now than when it did when you first came to practice. Maybe notice any shift in the emotional state or your state of mind. Notice any differences in the breathing pattern, the depth of the breathing. And again, notice those places where the body's resting on the mat, where you're grounded. Let's bring the hands into prayer position at the chest, resting the thumbs on the sternum. Take a full inhale and we'll chant Om together on the exhale. And let's bring the hands so that thumbs rest on the forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Thumbs resting on the lips. May we have peace in our words. Thumbs resting back at the heart space. May we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes, honors, and cherishes the light in you. And I bow as I say, Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. It is always an honor for me to be your guide in practice. I do hope that this practice brought you some peace and tranquility into your day that you can carry with you as you navigate your outer world. And I really look forward to practicing with you again here soon. Thanks so much for being here. Namaste.